was recently down at Mullaney at David Linton Timber and Furniture shop in the centre of town there, and came across this chunk of red cedar. It's the outside of a tree. You can see where the bark and that is. Fair bit of cracking involved, but a bit of character. It's got a bit of thickness to it, maybe 50 mil in places, but actually coming down to quite thin in others. So it presents a little bit of a challenge on how to, you can see I've been sort of thinking through possible feet positions and whatever, but I'm thinking I might need to put a couple of cross braces across the bottom for feet to stabilise the whole piece. Let's flip it over and have a look. Now I've progressed on the top. The original timber's got a few problems I need to think through. There's a crack there going through, right through from that other side. You can see I've been experimenting and just playing around with shapes. I decided to put in a couple of feature pieces, just these leaves inlaid. I managed to pull them out. Oh, they're pretty tight. No, can't get any of those out. There's one. You see there I've carved an inlay. And so they sit down, they'll be glued in. I've managed to, it's going to be a big sushi tray or something like that. It's large, so you can see it's probably about, I'd say at least 700 across. A classic red cedar grain there. So talking about these inlays, obviously I've designed the leaf shape on the piece for a start to make sure I've sort of get a shape that I'm quite happy with, and I transfer that into an external piece of timber. This is red Cyrus up from North Queensland, pieces that I've had for years. It's got a little bit like Wheeler, I suppose, in nature. It's a bit annoying to carve because it has an absolute accurate effect on your nasal passages. So you've got to be wearing a mask and whatever. I don't know if it's toxic, but it certainly feels like it when you're carving it. So yes, so once I've carved the piece, shaped that up, I trace the outline very accurately and then just gradually work the outer edge of that, cutting that grain. Then I get a little trimmer and route the bulk of that out, and then go back and really try and get the precision so it fits. A little bit of glue. You can see there's some gaps there, but not much. It's pretty good. When I glue it in and whatever, you won't see any gaps on that at all. Yes, so that'll add a little bit of character to the outside edge. Well, I've shaped up a couple of pieces of red Cyrus as possible legs, and to stabilise this cracking across the base. I'm just going to route a housing and glue those down. I'll have to design a couple of leg sort of shapes with it. I think it'll work. It'll make the tray a bit heavy though, that's the only thing I'm really concerned about. And oh well, I don't want it cracking down the track though either. Okay. So I'm in the process of housing in the legs. You can see I've done one made out of the red Cyrus, as I was saying. So I've made a bit of a jig to run the router down. I don't want it moving. I don't really have any of the fancier tools to do this, so I'm just improvising. Of course, the trouble with doing this housing is that the base of the piece of timber is all curved. So I've got to run a housing which will pick up the very deepest point there. The very deepest point, and it'll cut quite heavily into those sections. Heavily glued, and that should stabilise the piece, stop it from moving and cracking going forward. Alright, let's get into the router. Just using a straight cutter piece there on the, it's not a plunge router either, which makes it even more difficult. So I'm just sort of dropping it in. The first one worked out pretty well, so I'm quite confident. Here goes. Okay, so progress on the red cedar tray, sushi tray, I don't know what it'd be used for. Still got a fair bit of sanding on that centre area to get all the little scratches and whatever out of. Getting there. So the next process is to actually start carving the edge. So it'll get carved down to quite a fine entry. So we've carved off the edges and see the leg configuration, giving a bit of an edge. I haven't made it too thin this time because I want to preserve some of the strength of it. Yep. So here we are with a completed piece. I probably jumped a few little steps. You can see the fantastic grain the red cedar offers. Very classic. Quite happy with the finish. The inlays have worked out alright. Shows the profile. The legs in the end I cut down a little bit. I don't know if we can really see them there. So the final piece.